affects our output, it affects the way we relate with one another. Good day, everyone. My name is Stephanie dsewubajo. I'm a legal practitioner and I write on topics that deals with relationship, love, healing, and strength. Okay, recently I wrote a poem titled Juliet. And Juliet goes as thus. Juliet, it's okay if you choose never to get married. If you don't ever find that man capable of loving you. So majorly, what I'll be talking about in today's episode is capacity to love. Fine, love itself as a concept has lots of definition, but we'll not delve into that in today's episode. But majorly, let's just see love as an affection for someone, the opposite sex, obviously, for someone. I mean, 5 love languages developed by Dr. Gary Chapman. We have receiving gifts, we have acts of service, we have physical touch, we have quality time, and we have words of affirmation. Majorly, as I said today, we will be talking more of capacity to love. Now, those love languages, as I earlier said, everyone, each person has one love language that is so dominant. Even according to astrology, it makes us realize that each zodiac sign also has one that they love, which is their love language. Now, what is capacity? The capacity simply means enablement, power to receive, to do something. Now, we are not talking about capacity to love, which means the power to do something, the power to give love, the power to show someone that truly you mean the word to me. And when capacity is lacking, the opposite of capacity is lack, is weakness, and is incapacity. And when there is no capacity to love, do you know what it simply means? It simply means abuse. And what is the definition of abuse? Abuse is to use something in a negative way, use something in a bad way, with a bad purpose, and to use something very bad, to cause cruelty, to use something violently. Now, what is abuse? Abuse is to use something to negative effect, to use something in a cruel way, to use something violently, just majorly to give it a bad effect. Now, what are the types of abuse we have? We have physical abuse, which is the eating, the burning of a person. We have the emotional abuse or psychological abuse. We have the sexual abuse, which is common in our present day. We have financial and economic abuse, also very, very common. We also have neglect, and we have cultural or identity abuse. Now, majorly, how we will be focusing more on today's episode on emotional or psychological abuse. Now, emotional or psychological abuse is the abuse that is with a deliberate intention to cause anguish or distress on a person. And it's so common that in our society today, lots of people faces emotional or psychological abuse on a daily basis. And this abuse itself has so many effects. One of the effects of emotional or psychological abuse is that it affects our mental health. It affects our mental health, it affects our psychology, it affects the way we reason, it affects our output, it affects the way we relate with one another, and all this itself leads to trauma. This itself leads to trauma. Now, how do you spot emotional abuse? Basically there are 3 types of emotional abuse. There's the verbal abuse. We have the verbal, we have rejection, and we have gaslighting. Now, when you talk about gaslighting is majorly to make the person question his or her sanity. That, am I normal? Why should I do this? Then we have verbal, which is the yelling at the person, shouting at the person that, oh, why did you do this? You do this, you're not just good. And we have rejection, deliberately rejecting the person. This also can be seen as silent treatment. Now, there are so many emotional abuse one goes through in the present day, and this does not even have to do with our religion or our identity or our gender, because abuse is relative. Examples of emotional abuse, and really it's so common in our present day that we have so many, but we just reduce ourselves to this particular. For instance, the person you claim to love deliberately embarrasses you in public. For instance, you are eating in public, you both went to get food and you're like, oh, why are you eating like this? This is not how to eat. Oh, why are you dressed like this? You don't even know how to dress. And then another example is silent treatment. You don't know what's wrong. You're like, oh, what's happening? The person just keeps giving you silent treatment. Oh, what's wrong? Silent treatment. Are you fine? Silent treatment. Then another example is the person will keep finding excuse for something wrong. Oh, why didn't you call me? Oh, I was sleeping. Oh, why didn't you hanged out at the mall? Why didn't you take me along? Oh, I forgot my card. I did this, I did that. Excuses. When you detect excuses, you detect that the person is making you feel bad. These are examples of emotional abuse. Now, what's the way out of emotional abuse? The first way out of emotional abuse is firstly detect emotional abuse. Now, when you detect something, when you know something, then the next thing that comes is the solution. But when you are being abused emotionally, that you can't achieve something, you can't be something, you can't do something, you're not just good enough. When you don't know that this itself is emotional abuse, how do you come out from it? Firstly, detect abuse. Secondly, detect the abuser. When you detect the abuse and you detect the abuser, my friend, you are on your way to freedom. Because when you detect that, this person is deliberately keeps abusing me, you don't need to go and meet the person and be like, oh, stop this. The next solution is the way out from the abuse. What's the way out from the abuser? So you don't end up being a victim or a psychiatric victim. So you have to be like, oh, what's the abuse? Who is the abuser? Then after that, when you've determined that, this is the abuse, this is the abuser, what's the way out? How can I cut myself? This is a place of setting boundaries. When you have boundaries that, this particular person deliberately keep abusing me emotionally, doesn't care about how I feel, doesn't care about my mental state and health, then cut the person. Fine, it's not easy, but call the person from your call contact, from message, from everything. Then when you've done that, the next is emotional support. Now you get emotional support from people you love and that also loves you. Majorly, you get emotional support from your sisters, your brothers, your family, your close friend, your close spouse, and the religious setting. Perhaps your pastor, someone you can confide in, your imam, your teacher, your mentor, anyone you can talk to that, I'm being abused and this is already affecting me. It's already affecting my productivity. It's already affecting my being who I am. Then when you talk to this person and you find comfort in them, this is also another way out of emotional abuse. Emotional abuse as a topic, it's very, very wide and long. But on today's episode, I will stop here. And I want you to like my video and drop your comments below. And I'll also be dropping more videos and episodes. I would love you to keep watching. Thanks for watching.